Hello and good morning, everybody, and welcome to this ISM webinar. My name is Adam Brooke. I'm Head of Marketing here at the Institute of Sales Management. I know you'll get plenty of practical advice from today's session, which you can start applying to your own roles straight away. This webinar, once it will be delivered, will be made available on demand as soon as we finish, so you can watch it as many times as you like and at your own convenience. During the webinar, you'll be able to ask some questions by typing them into the box above. We'll answer these at the end, and if you have a moment as well, please take a look at the attachments that we've attached to this. There's a couple of attachments from us and also a couple of attachments from Daniel as well. There's also a couple of multiple choice questions during this presentation. I'll handle these and relay the results back to Daniel. So to introduce Daniel, I first met Daniel at our judging day, which is a prelude to our BESMA Awards. Dan is a top 50 global sales influencer and is the founder of the Daily Sales, one of the most popular sales blogs in the world today. The Daily Sales actually also sponsored Sales Manager of the Year at our BESMA Awards and won the Training Room Sales Team of the Year over 50. So what I'll do is I'll pass over to Dan now. He'll be the next voice you hear, and I hope you enjoy the webinar. Dan, over to you.
Thank you, Adam, and good morning, everyone who's dialed in today and anyone who's going to be watching this on demand. As Adam said, my name's Daniel Disney. I'm the founder of the Daily Sales, which is an online platform for salespeople sharing content every day. This is actually the third part of a three-part series of webinars that I've done with the ISM. So I'll do a quick recap as we go through today's webinar. But to give you sort of a bit of an overview, we'll cover a quick introduction, obviously a recap on what we've done. And then today's all about top tips. So what I want to talk about is obviously how you can set time daily, how you can consume content to help utilize it for social selling, how to manage connection requests effectively, LinkedIn top tips, so how you can use LinkedIn to your favor, what to avoid, researching top tips, so how you can research your prospects and customers, some recommended books around social selling, and then obviously bringing it all together. So as I mentioned, this is the third part of a three-part series. So if you do sort of find time, as Adam said, they're available sort of on demand, so as and when you wish to watch them. The reason I'm here talking to you today about social selling, something I've been very passionate about over the last sort of 2-3 years. And, you know, here's a unique insight. I'm not a naturally social media person. I think a lot of people might look at my profile, look at the Daily Sales, even reading some of this sort of achievements that I've made over the last few years and think that, oh, surely I must be just some sort of young person who's, you know, brought up on social media and, you know, understands it naturally. And actually up until about 3 years ago, it really wasn't something I used, not for my personal life, not for professional. And it was actually when I realized and started to make connections that actually I could utilize social media, predominantly LinkedIn, to help enhance my sales process, you know, build a brand and actually radically improve both the way I sell and also the results, that it really transformed what I did. And this is why I'm very passionate about it, because, you know, I'm not here to tell you today to stop making cold calls or to stop using traditional sales techniques, but actually, you know, utilize social media with them, bring it together, because then you kind of, you know, have quite an unstoppable selling force. So yeah, some of the things I've done over the last few years, I generated and closed a £1 million sale through social media. I've built a personal brand that's now recognized globally for myself. You know, I use the title influencer. I think it is rather fitting. You know, when you have a large social audience, you do have influence on it. What you say, what you present to them, you know, will influence what they read, perhaps choose. I have social content reaching 7 million people monthly, so I share content to over 150,000 followers, and I share probably 4 to 6 bits of content a day. So through that, naturally, it reaches a lot of people across the month. I wrote the top sales blog for this year. I think for anyone who's written articles on LinkedIn will know that it's not easy necessarily to get, you know, mass audiences. Probably on average, my blogs will get anywhere between 2 and 10,000 reads. But this one in particular has been read, I think it's over 390,000 times now. And I've been mentioned in the London Evening Standard and obviously the ISM's Winning Edge magazine. So let's crack on with a quick recap. So I mentioned before, I've done 2 webinars for the ISM, which are available for you for free to download and consume at your pleasure. The first one was becoming the brand and selling you. So the first sort of part of the social selling journey is to kind of really build your personal brand, figure out who you are going to be from the customer's point of view, and then how you can sell that. As a sales professional, business leader, you're not selling your product or your business all the time. You're actually selling you. People buy from people. We all know that. And social media is this new platform to really, enhance what the brand you is. It's no longer put down to business cards or, face-to-face meetings and things like that. People, here's the reality. Your prospects, your customers, they're looking at your profiles, whether you know it, whether you don't, whether you want to admit it or whether you don't. It's happening. Your customers, the companies that you want to be customers, they will be looking at your profile. It might be your LinkedIn profile, it might be a Twitter profile, it might even be your Facebook profile. So that's happening. What the choice that you sort of need to take now is, right, okay, do I sort of ignore that and continue not utilizing social media, or do I actually get ahead of the curve and think, okay, they're going to be going to my profile. When they visit my profile, what they're going to see is something and someone that they're going to want to buy from, someone they're going to want to build a relationship with. So that was the first part. The second part was then creating content. So once you've sort of got your profile, you've built a bit of a brand around your name, who you are, what value you offer your audience, then it's about obviously creating your own content and, showing people the value that you have. Now, for a sales professional, for a business leader, this will be about your industry. If you're selling into the pharmaceutical industry, then that will be the type of content you want to create. And so that webinar was all around how you can create good, solid content, and equally discussed how to create viral content. So, like I mentioned earlier, you could write a great blog about the pharmaceutical industry, for example, and say it got read, a couple of thousand times. That's great. That's a couple of thousand people that have read your content, seen you as a credible resource for information. That's the layers of trust for a buyer-seller relationship. But then if you're able to try and create viral content, that blog could then be read by hundreds of thousands of people, and suddenly you're out in a much bigger audience and you have the opportunity to portray your brand, your product, you in front of a lot more people, and obviously the opportunities will spiral from there. So, mention some of these key points. Obviously, your social media profile is the best place to start. That is what builds your personal brand. Curating content, so that's sharing content, not your own, but sharing other people's content. Growing your network, so again, growing your connections, growing followers, obviously creating content, writing blogs, and then obviously the viral content piece. So please do check those 2 webinars out. I'd like to believe there's some pretty solid content in there for you. And it leads very nicely on to today's one, which is sort of top tricks and tricks. So how you get tips and tricks, how you can bring it all together and really utilize it to your advantage. So probably the biggest concern I think I hear from salespeople and sales leaders is, how do we find enough time? Now, like I've mentioned, I've currently got, I think I counted yesterday, it was about 156,000 followers. I share content every single day, personally, and also through the daily sales, but I also have a full-time job. And I've been able to do that whilst maintaining a very intense, sort of senior leadership full-time job. And, that's the reality. You don't have to sit for hours and hours every day to achieve those sort of things. The key is to be aware of it, to be conscious about it, to set time. Don't make it a reaction thing. Be proactive about it. Build it into your process. Look at your current sales process, your current daily plan, and build it into it. It could be 10 minutes at the start of the day, before you even start your shift. Maybe you come in 10 minutes earlier, maybe it's the first 10 minutes of your day, that you set time to look at the social media stuff, the social selling stuff. Maybe it's looking at growing your connections, looking at sharing some content. Then maybe you do 10 minutes at lunchtime, or before lunchtime, or after lunchtime. And then you do 10 minutes at the end of the day. I personally would never really look to utilize more than half an hour. The only time I think I would ever sort of anticipate using more time was if I was creating a really solid piece of content that I knew was going to generate some some good attention, because then, you know, if it's going to take you an additional 30 minutes to create a really solid bit of content, but you're, you know, pretty confident it's going to reach 1,000 people or 2,000 people, you know, I think that's time well invested. Beyond that, half an hour a day, more than enough time. So, you know, the key is to be proactive about it, put it into your process, set KPIs against it so that you have a target to work on. You know, as salespeople, we're driven by targets. If you're a sales leader, the teams will obviously be driven by targets. So set KPIs against it. Say, look, every day I want to see that you've connected with 5 new people. Yeah. Every day I want to see that you've shared at least 2 bits of content. Manage it, you know, or measure it, then manage it, track progress. Now, one thing I've sort of not mentioned in the middle there is use auto-scheduling. So I mentioned earlier that the daily sales shares 4 to 6 bits of content every day. Now, I'm not physically sat here sharing that. It's automatically doing that. I personally use a platform called Hootsuite. There are others. Buffer is another one, and there are several others on top of that. And what that means is at the beginning of the week or the beginning of the month, I can sit down for an evening and spend maybe an hour or two auto-scheduling an entire week's, fortnight's, month's content in advance so that I can then get on with my job. So I don't have to be worried about making sacrifices every day. That's why you can afford to have, you know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes at the start of the day, middle and the end, because you can auto schedule so much to be happening throughout the day whilst you're then busy getting on with your job, getting on and doing the things that really matter. So the key thing, once you've kind of built it into your structure, once you've built it into your day, you've got set time to start to utilize social media and grow the sort of social sales within your process. One of the next top tips I have is to consume more content. So whether you're going to share content or create your own, the best thing you can do is obviously become more knowledgeable on what is good content. So the best way to do that is to consume more of it. The more you read, the more you see, the more you'll learn about what works and doesn't work. So, yeah, there are great things you can do. You can subscribe to relevant blogs. So I subscribe to loads of blogs, and that means they come straight to my inbox. So every single day I'm getting all this content brought to me that I can read, see what's, you know, the hot topics in the subject area, see what other people are doing, what I like, what I don't like. You know, it will be inspiration for what I then create myself. You can subscribe to news channels as well. So, for example, BBC News, CNN, Sky News, all these channels have subscription boxes, and they will send you specific news relevant to your industry. So if you're working in technology, you know, you can get so many different technology blogs and news channels, you know, sent direct to your inbox. What that allows you to do twofold is first, obviously, to consume content so you can, you know, really get to grips with how you want to start putting content out there. But equally, it's coming to you to then share. So you could, you know, when you get into work in the morning, you check your, inbox, and you've got 5 or 6 subscription emails coming through with all these great articles. All you have to do is open up the article, and you'll have all the social icons right there that you can share it direct to your audience. It doesn't have to be a long, tedious process. You're literally talking about open an email, find a good blog, click share. And there it is. It's shared with your audience. Your audience has seen you share a bit of content. You've engaged your network. Obviously, there are lots of other great forms of content listening to podcasts. If you're driving, whether you're driving to work, whether you're driving to meetings, you know, often drive time can be pretty downtime. You know, you might need that, don't get me wrong, but, you know, actually finding time to slot in a podcast or even an ebook, you know, it's a great way to consume content on the go. Watching videos, obviously we have videos on LinkedIn now, YouTube, biggest source of videos, great ways to consume content. Now, I personally probably get 60% of my inspiration to write from listening and reading or consuming content. It's by hearing people talk about something or watching or reading something that will then inspire me to think of what I would want to sort of talk about. I'm not saying copy it, but it's the inspiration, the spark of inspiration. Checking your social feed, so again, scrolling up and down and looking what everyone else is sharing. Could be your prospects, what they're sharing. It could be your customers. Could be your, you know, colleagues or other people within the industry. Always good to keep an update on what's going on. Read the comments. So again, when you're looking at content, read what people are writing about it. What are their thoughts and opinions? Because again, what you want to try and tap into is what everyone's interested in. You know, what are your prospects really interested in reading, and what are they talking about? And look for trending topics. So look for, you know, what's trending on Twitter. It's, you know, good lists available right there, and you can see what's really out there across the world today, and what can you then do to capitalize on that. So one of the next big things, obviously, if you want to grow a large audience, you know, you're going to have to connect with more people. And, you know, this is something that is done in many, many different ways. When I first started utilizing LinkedIn about 3 years ago properly, there was a real thing that if you didn't personalize your connection requests, you had no chance of that other person connecting. But then you equally had the kind of the opposite, which they were called lions, which is L LinkedIn or LI LinkedIn, and then ON Open Networker. And these were people that would literally connect with anyone, and you had a guarantee that you would get that connection request. Now, it's a bit different today. I think a lot of people are quite open to connecting. Here's my view. You know, it doesn't have to be about, is that person going to be a customer of mine? Is someone in their network potentially a customer of mine? Because you're not just connecting with that person, you're connecting with the 500 people they're connected with, 1,000 people they're connected with, whatever it may be. So for me personally, I've always been open to connecting with anyone and everyone, because A, helps me grow and build my brand, but equally, whilst they directly might not be a customer of mine, either I may offer value to them, or I will offer value and potentially find customers through their networks. I do recommend personalizing it, but don't make it complicated. Keep it nice and simple. You know, you don't have to put an entire, and I highly suggest not putting an entire sales pitch into your connection request. But I would, you know, I'd add their name. So for example, here the image has got Jack. So I would probably put something like, "Hi Jack." Usually I would write something like, "Would be great to connect." Obviously with my name at the end of it. Nice and simple. Now I've done it before where perhaps, you know, I know that they're probably going to want a bit more than that. So I might write something like, you know, I've worked with other people, or I've worked with someone you know, or I think there's a good idea I'd like to discuss with you. Something really soft, nothing too intense, keeping it nice and simple. Key is, you know, connect daily. Make it a daily thing to connect with 5 people, 10 people. Because say you did 5 people a day, you know, it's 15 people, 25 people a week. That's 100 people a month. You know, 100 people a month soon becomes 1,200 people a year. Bit by bit, you grow. I didn't start off with 150,000 followers. I think when I first joined LinkedIn, I probably only had a couple of hundred within the first sort of few months. It takes time, but it's only by doing it every day that you're able to build up to that sort of size. And include referrals. So, you know, if you do know someone that they know, mention that. You know, it helps bridge the, okay, yeah, why should I connect to you? Okay, so let's kick off the first question. I'll pass over to Adam now to take the lead on this one.
Fantastic. So a couple of, just the first question here is, what is the average number of LinkedIn connections per user? There's 4 options. What I'll do is I'll ask these questions now. So what is the average number of LinkedIn connections per user? A, 150, B, 400, C, 1,000, D, 2,500. I'll give you a couple more seconds to answer that. So what is the average number of LinkedIn connections per user? A, B, C, or D? Thanks. So I'll stop the voting now. Dan, I'm not sure if you can see that, but
yeah,
we've had
relatively even split.
Yeah, over to you.
Okay, so I mean, look, we had a vote for A, a vote for B, and a vote for C. It's an interesting one, because when I was thinking about this, you know, I would probably have guessed around sort of 1,000 mark for today's type of profile. But the reality is, and I think 2017 was the data source, it's actually about 400. So the average number of LinkedIn connection per user is 400. But then here's the thing, if you have 10 connections, that's a potential audience reach of 4,000. If you have 100 connections, 40,000, and so on and so forth. Now, LinkedIn used to do a great thing. They don't do it anymore. And I would love to see it come back where they would tell you, right, your audience, you have, let's say, 1,000 connections, but your audience reaches, say, 150,000 odd people. And it would tell you what your actual audience reach was, which was a great thing. But, okay, they don't include it, but you can start to now guess that however many connections you've got, if they all have 400 connections, you can see where that reach goes. And the reason that you have that reach, obviously you can't directly engage with their audience, not in a simple way. However, it's when they engage with your content that their audience will see it. So if you shared a blog and they clicked like, their entire network will see it. If they share it to their network will see it. If they comment on it, their network will see it. And that's the power of it. There's been a very good sort of point raised, and I certainly appreciate where it's coming from, sort of saying this is quite basic stuff. I will happily do a couple of real sort of top-level, more mature tips at the end of this. I like to try and set the foundations because I think that's where the majority of people need help. However, you may be sat there already with a strong network. You may be sat there already creating content. Perhaps you want to look at how you can take it to that next step, so I'll cover that at the very end. LinkedIn top tips. So look, I'm big for LinkedIn. That's the social network that's worked best for me. There are people that have really utilized the best from Twitter, people that have utilized the best from Facebook. For me personally, LinkedIn's been the biggest platform that I've been able to yield success from. So, the majority of my social success has been through LinkedIn. So here are the things that I would really highly recommend setting up, certainly straight after this. Have a winning profile. That's where it all starts. If you don't have a professional, up-to-date picture, if you don't have a background image, and again, you can create that background image for free. And quite simply, there's a platform called Canva, C-A-N-V-A. They have a template, which is the right size, the right pixelation, and you can personalize it. You can add in your logo, your company, wherever it is. You can create professional backgrounds. If you don't have a capturing headline that shows people why they should want to connect with you, and it's not got all the right up-to-date information, a good summary, all these things, media content, referrals, recommendations, all these things, you need to have a link profile. That's the number one place to start. If you ever want me to have a look at your profile and give you a couple of tips, please do connect with me, drop me a message. I will happily have a quick look and try and give you a bit of guidance on that. I wrote a blog as well not so long ago on how to write the ultimate profile. I'll try and get Adam to pop that in as well as a link. Now, updating it regularly, again, is another top tip. Don't leave it months and months and months between updating it. Update it. You can have it on your settings. Every time you update it, your network is alerted. Again, it's a great thing to do because then it puts you and your name and your brand in front of your audience. Connect daily, we've already discussed. Sharing content daily, engaging content daily, and creating content. So again, you don't have to write blogs every day, but you should be sharing content every day. Like I mentioned, it could be an article you've just seen on BBC News that you click share. It's something going out there. Now, then you want to engage with content. You want people to see that you have an opinion, that you have an interest in your industry. Share mixed media, so don't limit it to anything. Share video, share audio, share blogs, share images, be the sort of all-rounder. Building a personal brand will sort of come from all of that. And add a link to your email signature. This is another little top tip that not many people utilize. Have a link in your sort of automated LinkedIn signature. So every time you send an email, someone has a direct link to your LinkedIn profile. If you've got Outlook, and if you Google it, there are actual little sort of image apps that sort of say, properly LinkedIn branded, connect with me, and then you can add in your actual link to your profile. So all they have to do is click, and they go straight away through. So, on top of you physically connecting with people, you're also directing people to your profile through the type of content you do anyway. You could include a link on your business cards. Any way you can, you want to try and direct people back to your profile. Again, trying to utilize some more mature tips. Let's say you're doing all of this. Now, I can't remember if I've included, I think I have done in the researching bit. I won't cover it now, about ghost searching. Probably one of the most powerful tools you can have to really utilize researching your customers, but I'll come on to that one a bit later. But a couple of other tips that I try to do to utilize LinkedIn to its best. Look at what the algorithms are preferring. So about 6 months ago, LinkedIn was pushing blogs. And so if you wrote a blog, you had a good chance of it getting out to the audience. Not so much the case now. It's probably split between two things. One is video. So recording short, nice videos that you can put on LinkedIn. Again, a top tip, try and include annotations. So try and have it so that it sort of has the writing of what you're saying, because not everyone's actually going to listen to it, especially if you're at work. Not everyone's going to be able to do the audio version. So if you've got, writing at the bottom telling them what you're talking about, you probably get a lot more interest. The other top tip is long form statuses. So not just, one sentence, but probably 2-3 paragraphs, long form statuses. So not a blog post or an article, but a status that you write in. They're getting picked up quite heavily on the algorithms, which means they're encouraged into your audience, and you're likely to get a better return on that. So yes, right, what to avoid. There are lots of traps. The LinkedIn police, as they are often called, are always out in full force, so there are things to avoid. Although, I say this with a pinch of salt, a lot of people say that you can't share memes on LinkedIn. I think my daily sales audience probably proves that wrong. So again, don't listen to everything they sort of say, but things that I would personally recommend avoiding. Avoid sending generic messages. So again, my inbox regularly has generic, auto-sent sales pitch messages that are not personalized, that certainly aren't of products that I need, want, or would use, but they're just mass messaged out there. Now, look, don't get me wrong, they must work to some extent for people to do them. In the same principle that cold calling must work, and does work in some cases, obviously a very low percentage. I would personally avoid it. I would always try and do personal messages. I think it sends the wrong message out there. Avoid selling. Again, social media isn't a tool to sell. It's a tool to enhance selling. So when you're putting out content, it's not about you. It's not about your product. It's not about your business. It's about them. I'm only going to follow pages. I'm only going to connect with people or subscribe to things that's going to offer me value, not sell at me all day long. I don't need to know about your offers or your promotions. You do that when you sort of offered value first. So try not to use it for selling. You don't need to talk about how great your company is. Talk about your industry. Talk about your customers, what they're interested in. Offer them value. Then bring them back to you as the credible source where you can then start to sell. Avoid not keeping it up. So consistency, biggest key. Make sure you find time daily. Try not to go a week, 2 weeks without doing anything on social media, because you'll just drop out of the radar of your prospects and customers. Avoid not being patient. Nothing's instant. You might not get thousands of people in your network straight away, but again, it's the little steps every little day trying to make progress. That's the key. If you can have one new connection a day, you're one more connection more than you had the day before. So always try and be patient with it. Avoid using other people's content, and I mean, not you can share people's content, but try not to copy it. I've seen plenty of people that literally just copy and paste your content. Now, chances are you'll get caught doing it. It's just not worth doing. You can share content. Obviously, when you share it, it will come from them, so they're credited for it. And obviously, you can credit them when you share it, but certainly don't steal it. Avoid being something and someone you're not. Don't try and be anything but yourself. Authenticity is probably the biggest seller on social media. People want to follow you. They want to follow different people. They don't want the same old people. They want the same old content. They want different things, different thoughts, different opinions, different bits of insight. So, find out who you are and be you. Plus, it's a lot easier being you than it is trying to be someone else. Okay, question 2, over to Adam.
Hi guys, so second question is, what percentage of B2B buyers use social media to research before they buy? Again, there's 4 options there, A, B, C or D. So what percentage of B2B buyers use social media for research before they buy? A, 25%, B, 35%, C, 55%, or D, 75%. As before, I'll give you a couple of minutes, or a couple of seconds, sorry, and then relay the results back to Daniel. A couple more seconds. What percentage of beauty buyers use social media for search before they buy? A, 25%, B, 35%, C, 55%, or D, 75%. Okay, that's done. Daniel, pretty even spread there across A and D. Nothing
That
B
is
and D.
that is a pretty even spread. Spread. I can say that it is 75%. So again, 2017 stats suggest that 75% of B2B buyers use social media to research before they buy. Now, I actually found that quite interesting, and again, obviously, someone quite into the social media space. But the fact that 75%—that's a huge percentage of people to use social media to research before they buy. It's fascinating. You know, it highlights that your prospects and customers are likely to be looking at your profiles, your company profiles, your content. And that will naturally influence your decision to buy, which makes it important to do all these things. Okay. So researching top tips. Look, here's where we can go into a bit more depth. You know, I get it. LinkedIn profile tips, quite basic. You know, if you've got a great profile, great. That's a really great place to start, and obviously highlighted the first step. Then if you're sharing content and creating content, again, great. I don't see enough good content out there, so please make sure you're always looking at how you can make sure your content is of the right standard, using the right type of images, putting out the right type of content that's actually going to get read and engaged with. Once you've kind of got those basics in place, then you can start to utilize the tools on LinkedIn. So researching is one of the best ones, where you as a business or a salesperson or a sales leader can research your prospects and your customers into such a great depth. You know, this is the difference. You don't have to then spend hours on a phone call asking lots of questions, because you would have already found out a lot of that base knowledge, and then all you're doing is sort of confirming it and building the relationship, as opposed to going through a checkbox list of questions. So, you know, you can look at company profiles. So, for example, if you search the ISM, you will see the ISM's company profile on LinkedIn, and it will tell you all of the people that work there. It will show you all of the content that they're sharing. It will have information about their company and a link to the website. You can then start to look at all the staff. You can see, right, who are the decision makers, who covers these various departments. You can look at their social feed, so look at their Facebook channel, look at their Instagram channel, look at their Twitter channel. What content are they sharing? What are they talking about? You know, if you were looking to prospect the ISM, for example, you would be able to see, oh, great, they had an award ceremony a couple of weeks ago. When I talk to them, I can mention that. I can research how successful it was. Let's look at the articles, and that can form part of that conversation. Obviously, reading blogs, look at the content they're sharing, look at their referrals. So again, if I went onto the ISM and I might look at Adam's page, for example, I would be able to see, you know, what he's interested in, what he does, but equally the people that are recommending him, that are referring him, that have written and suggested him as someone that I should work with. Now, here's at the very bottom, I've put in Ghost Search. Probably one of the most powerful tools that I've utilized. That, you know, you can pay premium features for LinkedIn, and, you know, in my honest opinion, it's quite expensive. You know, talking 50, 60 pounds at least a month. It's a fair amount of money. Now, if you're utilizing LinkedIn aggressively a lot every day, you could probably justify that. However, I've not been one to pay for it personally, and one of the things I do to sort of utilize one of the blockages you have on a standard account, so obviously you can only search so many times a month. So they cap your search limits. I don't know what the exact number is, but I know I used it up quite often on a monthly basis, where I then physically can't search anymore. Now, obviously, if you're prospecting, that's your key tool to finding people and companies. So if you're being stopped to do that, it's a big blocker. One of the ways you get around it is to do a ghost search. And actually, it's a way to get around the blocker, but it's also a very good way to directly find your prospects. What a ghost search is, you pull up Google search engine, you go into the Google type bar and you type in www.linkedin.com. It's the first thing you do, types in the full URL for LinkedIn. Then you do /, and this is where you get creative. So for example, let's say you were targeting the ISM, you would then do / ISM head of marketing, or head of sales, or head of IT, or just IT. You can put anything, and what that will do then is pull you up all the profiles of those relevant people. So if you did that now for the ISM, hopefully what you would find is Adam's profile at the very top as the current head of marketing for the ISM. Now, not only does that show you who that person is. You might not know what the name is. So first of all, you found the name. You found the person that you probably likely to want as the decision maker. What you can then do that you may not have been able to do before is connect with them, because you are only able to connect with first or second tier connections on LinkedIn. Once it gets past third, so once you really don't know anyone, there's not many common connections between the two of you, you then can't directly connect with them. However, by doing the ghost search, when you open up their profile, you can. It allows you to directly connect with them. So not only is it a way that you can then, obviously there's no search limits, there's no search limits how much you can search in Google. So, if you've reached your limit, what you can then do is utilize ghost searching to start directly targeting the type of people you want to speak to. A, you're going to find out who they are. B, you're going to be able to connect with them. It's a powerful tool. Again, if you would like a bit more information around that, would like me to go through it again, let's connect with, let's connect after this this webinar. I'll happily go through that again. But a really powerful tool, something that I've used a lot over the years. Couple of recommended books. So again, taking social selling to that next level, if you really want to build it into your strategy and make the most of it, I'd recommend a couple of things. One is some proper training. There are great social sales trainers out there. I also go out and I will spend a full day, 2 days with companies doing really intense social media and social selling training, where on a one-to-one basis, we can really look at all the tools that you can leverage. Now, there are a couple of great books as well. Tim Hughes, great UK-based author, great guy. He was at the Bessemer Awards on my table, actually. He wrote literally the book on social selling. He worked at Oracle and has created a lot of success from it. Great book. Jamie Shanks, who's the sort of founder and CEO of Sales for Life. They're a social sales training company based in Canada. He wrote a great book last year, maybe in this year actually, called Social Selling Mastery. Fantastic book, again, really talks through his story, and they now train companies all over the world in social sales training. So 2 really good books. Again, I'd highly recommend them. So one last quick question, then what I'll do is go through a few more sort of top tier tips, but I'll pass over to Adam for this one.
Fantastic. So the third and final question of the presentation, unless I'm mistaken, there was a question 4, I didn't see one, is question 3. What percentage of decision makers use social media for business reasons? Again, there's 4 options. You can start your voting now and relay the results back as before. So what percentage of decision makers use social media for business reasons? A, 38%, B, 47%, C, 69%, D, 82%. I'm going to say D. I wish I could take part.
This is another interesting one. Obviously, a lot of people, probably the majority of people, use it for personal reasons. Most people will have personal Facebook accounts, etc. But actually, how many people are using it for business things, whether it's researching, whether it's, creating content, or even from a company perspective?
It's got to be D. No one's saying D. Come on. Okay. So I've stopped the voting there, Daniel. So 67% of the audience said B.
Okay. You were right, Adam. It was 82%.
What's my prize?
Respect. We will give you some good respect for getting that one right.
Okay. Over to you.
So yeah, 82% of decision makers are utilizing social media for business reasons. They're utilizing to research, to read, to consume. Again, we've kind of covered this point, and I get it. For some of you, this might be some basic stuff, but for a lot of people, it isn't. And that's the scary thing. It may not be you, it may be your teams, it may be your colleagues, hopefully it may be your competitors. But a lot of people aren't doing these basic things, and they're essential to then the advanced stuff. So, before I finish this webinar, let me try and give you some more sort of top tier tips that have kind of really helped me over the years. Key things for me, I create and try to create high quality content. So again, every detail matters. The image you choose to use, if you're sharing an image, if you're writing a blog, the image has to be the right size, has to look good, has to be branded. The title, it can't be long. If you're writing a blog, it needs to be short and catchy. The content itself, it needs to tell a story, it needs to be engaging. Break everything you share down and make sure it's offering as much value to your customer. Again, there is a lot of content out there. Here's the reality. There is a lot of content out there. what is going to get your content read. Because I see a lot of salespeople, a lot of sales leaders writing content, and some of it's good, but it's not good enough. And so it's not going to get read. And so your customers aren't going to see it, of which case then that time becomes wasted. In essence, you want to utilize that time as smart as possible. So taking the time to create to create content is crucial. It makes a big difference. Secret to creating viral content. So how do you get content to be viewed 100,000 times plus? First step is quality. Has to be good content in the first place. But actually getting something to go viral is about right time, right place. And this is why it's important, going back to some of the earlier tips, to really keep your ear to the ground. You need to be immersed in your industry to know what's of interest to people. I've created a few bits of viral content, 2 bits that really stood out to me. I put out a meme on the Daily Sales when not the current series, but the last series of Game of Thrones aired. And it was the penultimate episode. Jon Snow was in an epic battle, and I created a funny sales meme that was sort of highlighting the beginning of the month and the end of the month. Again, it was no different to any other meme that I shared, had the quality that I always try and put out there. The reason it went viral, and it did 100 times better than any of my other memes, was because I put it out on the day that the penultimate episode aired. Everyone was talking about it. It was a hot topic. Everyone was interested in it. And so it got viewed so much more. Another article I wrote earlier this year, actually I mentioned at the beginning, the number 1 sales blog for this year. Again, no different to most of the blogs I write. It was the 10 things that will never change in sales. It had a good image, had a good catchy title, nice and simple blog in itself. The reason it went viral was because I put it out at a time when the cold calling versus social selling debate reached its fever pitch, when everyone was really engaged about it, and I was seeing a lot of content going out from both sides. It was getting quite aggressive, everyone was getting quite heated about it. So I chose that time to put out a piece of content that was neutral, that brought both parties together to say, look, irregardless of traditional sales techniques or social sales techniques, here are the things, the core values in sales that will never change. And that took, again, up until that date, I think the best success I've had with the blog was about 80,000 reads, which is significant, don't get me wrong. But then to take it to something that was being read over 390,000 times, it's the right place, the right time. And the only, bar luck, which you kind of don't want to leave it to, the only way you can really hone in on that is to make sure you're watching and immersing yourself in your industry. There is so much more you could do with it, and I'm always keen to talk about it. A lot of the content I write is about how you can utilize social media for success. But to bring it all together, and again, you need the basics to kind of then leverage the top tier stuff. Make sure your profile's as good as it can be. And again, I'll happily check and offer advice where I can. Make sure you're sharing content regularly. Make sure you're growing your audience. Make sure you start to create your own content, and you don't have to start writing epic blogs. It might not be for you to write long blogs, but you can write statuses. You can start to share your thoughts and insights. Integrate social into your process. Make sure it's a part of everything you do. Build your own brand. Realize what you are going to be, what is brand you. Most importantly, have fun. And again, this is easier when you're being authentic and you're being yourself, but have fun. Of what I do. If I think the moment that I stop having fun, or the moment I start being something I'm not, it's going to totally take away from my ability to achieve any success through it. Enjoy what you're doing. Be passionate. Be passionate about your industry, your product, what you're doing, your customers. Be passionate about providing them value and insight, because that is what will help bring them closer to you and build the foundations. That, I believe, is me done. So please pop any questions. Obviously, I'll answer some on now, and any that are left after we'll be able to sort of answer on the pre-recording. So yeah, any questions?
A slightly interesting thing from my side, Daniel, is that I cannot seem to connect to the webinar. I can hear you, so you're going to have to take control of ending it
Okay.
at the end. But just so before we get there, so if there are any questions, please ask away. If we do miss any, of course, we will answer these at the end. The next webinar, however, is on the 5th of December. It's on breaking the mold, new competencies to meet the needs of a changing landscape. So I hope you can all make time to attend that. But Daniel, if you have any other questions or anything else you'd like to share, I'd like to say thank you very much, everyone, for attending. and that's goodbye for me.
Thank you for everyone who's watched this. I do appreciate that some of this is basic stuff, but I will stress that is crucial to social selling success and probably what the majority of people unfortunately aren't doing. So if you are someone who's, already ahead of that game and doing a lot of stuff on social media, you want to know how you can take the next steps, please, again, contact me directly. I will happily book some time to have a sort of one-on-one conversation, or I'll send you some content that I think will help the more mature social seller take it to that next level. But I hope you've enjoyed it. Please do connect with me on social media. There are some great attachments. I've just put in a new ebook on some great LinkedIn top tips. And good luck. Happy selling.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, guys. Take care.